Okay, I guess we're doing something a bit different this time around. Could I interest you in becoming whale food? Welcome to Strig's Game Café, everyone. Have a cup of Humphrey. If you've been paying attention to indie RPGs in the past few years, then OMORI should need no introduction. If, however, you have been living under Kel's pet rock, and for whatever reason don't care about being spoiled, let me give you a brief summary. OMORI is a psychological horror RPG maker game developed by OMOCAT and a small team, detailing the journey of a boy and his friends through the strange world of Headspace, and the things they find there. It also features a unique battle mechanic where both the player's party and the enemies can inflict emotions upon each other, with each emotion affecting stats and gameplay in a different manner, such as anger increasing attack but reducing defense, and sadness increasing defense but reducing speed. Now, there are multiple analyses already on YouTube about OMORI's plot. To me, there's no bigger testament to the quality of a story than the fact that it can generate discussion about its themes and writing years after it is released. However, I'm not here today to talk about all of OMORI's plot. Rather, I wanted to focus on one particular moment in the game, one that really stuck with me after playing. No, I'm not talking about the final moments of the good ending. It is amazing, don't get me wrong, but I feel like so many people have talked about it already that I'm not sure I would have anything new to contribute really. Instead, my focus is on the major story beat right before the last one. A story beat I've seen surprisingly little discussion about, at least here on YouTube. If you've looked at the thumbnail, then you know I'm talking about Humphrey, one of the last areas and one of the last bosses of the game. So just what about this silly looking whale moved me so much? Well, before I talk about that, let's set the stage here. The entire journey throughout Headspace began with OMORI and friends trying to find the 5th beetle of the group, Basil. Or maybe 6th beetle because Mari is also the... whatever. The point is, OMORI and the party have been searching for their friend Basil for some time now. Their latest stop being an underwater part of Headspace where they come to a literal dead end in their search. With no choice left, we take a detour to the side of the road. To even get to where Humphrey is, OMORI and the party need to traverse another area called the Deeper Well. This place is full of bizarre entities with names like Empty, Null, Odd, Cipher, Minus, and Decay. Most of them offer words of advice and seem to be aware of the truth behind the existence of Headspace, though that won't be revealed to the player until later. Another strange occurrence happens right at the start of the area. Basil, the entire reason this journey began in the first place, is slowly being forgotten by the party members for reasons that are, at the time, unknown to the player. All these things, plus the eerie music and atmosphere of the Deeper Well, really give you a sense that you are somewhere you shouldn't be and it's best to turn back now while you still can. Eventually, you reach the branch coral formation with a peculiar shape. Who has some interesting revelations for OMORI. For the purposes of this video, only one of the answers given by the branch coral matters though. If OMORI asks about the big yellow cat, the branch coral will talk about 3 creatures that existed in Headspace before it was created properly. The oldest, the wisest, and the favorite. Again, for the purposes of this video, only the oldest is important. The branch coral says that the oldest is alive, but not the same as he once was. Age has removed his conscience and he has evolved into a parasite within himself. Finally, the coral reveals that this being lives just beyond this cavern. Let's keep this description in mind for later. For now, it's time to go into the cavern ahead and meet our soon-to-be host. After traversing the darkest part of this area yet, and speaking with a few more surreal abominations, you enter a giant skull. Inside is a save point, and if you've played RPGs in your life, you know that in a context like this, save points are an ill omen. A few more steps, and you come face to face with a big blue whale with the goofiest smile you will ever see in your life. At first glance, Humphrey looks and sounds like a comic relief character, to the point where he sticks out like a sore thumb compared to every other being you've seen in Deepwell thus far. He starts his dialogue with a whale pun and friendly banter before conveniently giving the party information that Sweetheart is here. Again, if you somehow ended up here because you don't care about spoilers at all you need to know about Sweetheart is that she's a minor antagonist from earlier in the game. Hearing that one of their old foes is here gives the party something new to do now that they're apparently forgetting Basil. Humphrey explains that the not magical girl is actually not inside the cave, but inside him, as Humphrey serves as a home to 3 sea witches. He then proceeds to lower the bridge. And the party goes in. If Humphrey's outside appearance clashes with the deep well, his insides, on the other hand, are just as bizarre. Turns out Humphrey can still talk to us here as he manifests his presence in the form of these weird warts or buds that look like Waka from Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door if it was always smiling ear to ear. He talks to us for a bit, and right off the bat, 2 sentences stick out. The first is, "I am always here. I am inside me and all around you," which lines up with what the Coral Branch said about him earlier. And the second is when the party is trying to decide where to go, and Humphrey nonchalantly responds with left, right, up, around. Does it matter? It's all forward, isn't it? Just pick one. It's easy. Which is a bit of a red flag given that he basically just told us to go inside his mouth not long ago. It's like he knows that whatever is coming next, there's no way to avoid it now. But regardless, the party moves on, exploring the belly of the whale in a raft. Let me take this opportunity to talk a bit about the actual dungeon design of Humphrey. It's actually one of the longest segments in the entire game, and it's also home to a number of enemies exclusive to it. Map-wise, it's a pretty standard dungeon, roughly divided into 4 segments, one for each direction and a 4th that you can only access after going through the other paths first. If you've played RPGs or even adventure games, you've seen this type of layout before. Think the assembly of Nihilo from Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne or the Forest Temple in Ocarina of Time. Each of the 3 starting paths leads to one of the 3 sea witches that Humphrey mentioned before. The route on the left leads to Molly, the one on the right goes to Medusa, and the middle one takes you to Marina. The 3 witches' laboratories are themed appropriately and have their own themed puzzles as well. Molly's section starts by straight up dropping you in a room with a bomb in the middle. The bomb can be defused by solving a bunch of memory puzzles. There's no time limit, as far as I can tell, but you can get the puzzle wrong. So don't get it wrong. Medusa's library is mostly flooded, requiring exploration by raft. You have to dodge food falling from the ceiling into Humphrey's stomach acid, and occasionally you need to gather Humphrey blobs so they form a bridge for you to cross large gaps across waterfalls. Though easier to deal with as a player than the previous puzzles, I believe it is worth mentioning that crossing waterfalls like this is an interesting choice of an obstacle, given that both fear of heights and fear of water are plot points addressed by the story earlier on. Finally, Marina's lair is filled with cages and creatures created by her, some of which you end up fighting. It also has some more Humphrey warts which can be hit to form bridges or unlock passageways. Overall, it's a very chill sub-area, and then you get to this corridor. Don't poke the glass, huh? Well, how bad could it really be? The chase segment is actually not hard, but I'd be lying if I said that going through it for the first time didn't put me on edge. In fact, all 3 of the sub-areas seem built specifically to try and put you, or rather, Omori and the party, on edge. Possibly to scare them off, and failing that, well, kill them. Like Humphrey is a giant death trap or something. After completing all 3 sectors, you use a slime keycard to go inside Humphrey's mouth inside his mouth, and reach the final stretch of the dungeon. Some stuff happens involving Sweetheart, it's not that important for this video, and then you fight the boss of this area, the 3 sea witches, or as how they are called in battle, the slime girls. It's not a hard fight, even if they can cause some unexpected effects like swapping everyone's heart and juice meters and debuffing all your stats at low health. Once they're down, the real threat makes itself known, with the witches no longer capable of feeding him and unable to hold his hunger back anymore. Humphrey starts devouring everything inside of him, starting with the slime girls. I like how the game tries to trick you for a moment, making you think you actually have a chance of finding a way out and escaping peacefully. The illusion is quickly shattered though, and Humphrey claims the party as his next meal. Just as how Humphrey is one of the game's longest dungeons, he's also one of the longest enemy encounters. The start is straightforward enough. You beat a bunch of smaller blobs, then they form into one big blob. Most bosses have multiple phases, so this isn't entirely unexpected by this point. However, most of them have some kind of gimmick, such as inflicting themselves or your party members with certain emotions, messing up with your strategies. Humphrey, on the other hand, is just a giant mass of flesh and brute force, meaning you're not really restricted to any particular strategy, but also that you can't really overpower him naturally like a few other encounters. It's only after the big blob phase that the terror of this boss reveals itself. From this point onward, at the end of each turn, Humphrey will swallow the whole party, which deals 25% of their HP bars in damage, as well as muffles the music and darkens the background with every use. The fight becomes a test of endurance, with players having to deal with 2 attacks per turn, one of which targets the whole party. And in the middle of all that comes what is, in my opinion, one of the most iconic lines of the whole game. It doesn't matter how quick or how slow. The more you struggle, the deeper we'll go. Through atmosphere alone, Humphrey is one of the best horror elements OMORI has, and is an amazing way to cap off the game before the final section send-off. For starters, you're underwater, which is itself a source of discomfort for Sunny. Discomfort giving form in the boss fight for something in the water that happens a little bit beforehand. Like with how something in the dark and something in the walls preceded the Otherworld and Firefly Forest areas respectively. What sets Sunny's fear of water apart from the others though is that it is directly linked to a near-death experience he had as a child. This could mean that something in the water is the oldest of his phobias, just as the branch coral calls Humphrey the oldest of the 3 primordial beings of Headspace. In the deep well, Humphrey exists alone in a dark cave. But inside him, there's an entire quote-unquote society of Humphrey blobs in here, essentially living like parasites inside the main Humphrey. This, ironically enough, is a direct parallel to how Sunny created OMORI and the rest of Headspace, a parasite within himself. However, this coping mechanism for loneliness can't really last, as evidenced by the hunger, which is both literal as well as metaphorical. Sunny has spent 4 years trying to break the cycle but has failed each time, as evidenced by the skeletons in the background for the 3rd phase of the fight. Thing is, right after this whole Humphrey segment, you get told that this is not the first time OMORI and the party do this whole journey to search for Basil. It's happened before, many times in fact. Meaning these skeletons inside Humphrey are actually previous iterations of OMORI, Hero, Aubrey, and Kel. This explains why he implied all paths inside him would lead forward, because this exact scenario has happened before, and as one of the oldest beings in Headspace, Humphrey is aware of this. During the 3rd phase, he utters these words: "It's pointless to squirm, give up my friend, I'm afraid this cycle will never end." As well as, "There's no need to squirm, ignorance is bliss. How many times must we do this?" And then there's how the party forgets Basil, one of the few inhabitants of the dream with the capacity to become self-aware, and the one that ultimately leads Sunny toward the truth. First, the party forgets him at the beginning of the Deep Well section, followed by Humphrey immediately giving them a new quest in the form of finding Sweetheart inside him, leading everyone away from Basil and toward their own ends in a single move. Additionally, each path to one of the Sea Witches has a short event that should remind the party of Basil, but doesn't, showcasing how they've almost completely forgotten him by this point. The memories of Basil's pictures, silhouette, and flower crown being disregarded immediately. This is the point in the story where Headspace stops playing around. This place is alive, and at least in part, it does not want Sunny to find out the truth he's searching for. So it does what a Silent Hill-esque inner hell does best. It does its utmost to distract the victim and lead them astray before dealing a death blow. And the scary thing is, so far, it's worked. But if you're patient, strategize properly instead of struggling blindly, and above all else, persevere, history won't repeat itself this time. After winning the fight, the party is spit out and Humphrey vanishes, presumably to sleep, which is also a parallel to what Sunny has been doing these last 4 years. And if you've collected all necessary keys, like I did, you should have all that you need for the finale of the game to open its doors to you. That reminds me of something actually. A passage from Joseph Campbell's The Hero with 1,000 Faces. The name he gives to the last part of the monomyth's first of 3 acts is the belly of the whale. And not only the name matches up here. Campbell explains this step of the journey as the idea that the passage of the magical threshold is a transit into a sphere of rebirth is symbolized in the worldwide womb image of the belly of the whale. The hero, instead of conquering or conciliating the power of the threshold, is swallowed into the unknown and would appear to have died. Once that death and rebirth are achieved, there's no turning back. The hero has become separated from the known world and must complete the journey before coming back as a changed person. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is happening near the end of the game, not the end of the first act. And yes, that's true. But think about it. In a way, weren't the past 4 years of Sunny's life one giant refusal of the call? In the best ending of the game, Sunny's only starting to come to terms with his past traumas, hopefully leading into a better life. It might be the end of the game for us players, but for him, it's only the beginning. And it all starts by defying the fantasy world of his own creation one last time, and defeating the very first being born of his imagination. So yeah, I really like Humphrey. And after watching this, I think you know why. My name is Strig, and thank you for your patronage. If you're leaving already, please consider leaving a tip in the form of a comment and a like. And if you'd like to come back, don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell on your way out. Thank you for visiting Strig's Game Café.